It's time to sit back, relax, and listen to Conversations with Joan. Conversations with Joan will inspire, motivate, and empower you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. And now, here's your host, Joan Herman.
Welcome to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life's Conversations with Joan. I'm Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in. Conversations with Joan focuses on topics that are important to your life, from health and wellness to professional development to personal well-being. Change makers join me to share their insights, tips, and strategies so you can thrive and live your best life now. Thank you for taking time for yourself, and thank you for letting us be a part of your life. Now, let's start talking. What can you do to achieve a fulfilling life, one with purpose and direction? For years, Dr. John Demartini has taught countless people how to be the master of their destiny. According to Dr. Demartini, it's not what happens to you in life, it's how you perceive it, what you decide to do with it, and how you act upon it. Dr. Demartini is a human behavior specialist, researcher, best-selling author, and founder of the Demartini Method, a revolutionary tool in modern psychology. He's authored 40 books that have been translated into 39 different languages. Dr. Demartini's new book is The 7 Secret Treasures, a Transformational Blueprint for a Well-Lived Life. Welcome, Dr. Demartini. Thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you. I'm the one appreciative. Thank you.
So, Doctor, most people will tell you that they want to live a great life. What does that mean to you, to live a great life?
Well, every human being, regardless of age or culture or gender spectrum, has a set of priorities, a set of values, things that are most to least important in their life that are unique like a fingerprint. And whatever's highest on that list of values is what they intrinsically feel called that they want to fulfill. And pursuing that and giving themselves permission to go and pursue what's truly meaningful to them is the key to a fulfilling life. Many people compare themselves to others, minimize themselves sometimes to people they put on pedestals, inject other people's values, cloud the clarity of what's really important to them, and then scatter themselves and try to be second at being somebody else instead of first at being who they are. A fulfilled life comes from being authentic to who you are, living by priority, saying no to things that are distractions, and giving yourself permission to go and do something meaningful that makes a difference and serves people so it can be remunerated with a fulfillment of what it takes to make a difference in the world.
You say that every individual lives by a set of priorities or values. Do you believe that most of us don't live in alignment with those values? Is that why so many people are unhappy?
Well, you said it beautifully. What happens is they have a set of values. Every one of their perceptions, decisions, and actions are based on it. They're filtering their reality. They're making decisions according to what they think will give them the greatest advantage or disadvantage at any moment, and they're taking actions accordingly. But what happens is they run into people in a mall, possibly, or in their life, that they put on a pedestal. And the moment they minimize themselves to somebody they exaggerate, they cloud the clarity of their own and then think they want to do something like these people. And they envy and imitate other people and then lose track of who they are. And even though they're actually living according to their values, they're not appreciating it because they're trying to be somebody they're not, and they have an internal conflict. And this ends up making you self-depreciate and thinking you're making mistakes and what's wrong with me, why do I sabotage, and all these limited beliefs. And those are basically because you're trying to be somebody you're not, even though you're actually living according to what you value. So it's being aware of what's really important and not being confused by outside influences trying to fit in instead of giving yourself permission to stand out uniquely as your own self.
Why do you think we do this? Does it come from our subconscious programming as a child, or are we just not knowing who we are? Are we insecure in who we are?
Well, that's a great question, and a little of all that. But way back, probably thousands of years ago, or hundreds of thousands of years ago, as we were individuals wandering around, we probably didn't do as well as when we were gathered together in a group. We could defend ourselves against things and protect ourselves. So we have a built-in, in our subconscious mind, a built-in impulse instinct, amygdala response to make sure that we don't get rejected, abandoned, and exiled from the group. And that's a very challenging thing for many people to stand out. There's an old proverb that says, I'd rather have the whole world against me than my own soul. But many people are afraid of being rejected, and so they want to fit in. And the second they do, they lose their identity sometimes. And this is part of what's making it confusing for people. And then they end up trying to please too many people on the outside in many areas of their life, instead of actually being able to gracefully, tactfully communicate what their priorities are in a way that other people win. When you do something that you can't wait to get up in the morning and do, people can't wait to get the service that you can provide. And if you can state it in such a way where people win, they'll encourage you to go and be yourself instead of trying to fit you into what their projections are. Everybody around you is getting up in the morning and dedicating their life to what's important to them, and they're projecting that onto you and trying to get you to fit into what they think is needed. And that's a very challenging, distracting setting for most people to try to navigate through. But having the courage to be yourself is very, very empowering and is the key to a fulfilled life.
You know, as you're talking about that, all that I keep thinking about it, all the times that I've stepped out in my life and how many people are there ready to attack you and put you down and tell you all the reasons why you can't do something and shouldn't do something. And so if somebody has this desire to step out from the pack, to be the individual and live authentically, but they're constantly being shut down and knocked down, how do you stay strong and get through that?
Well, if you're living consciously, identifying what's really, really, really valuable to you is a starting point. That's why on my website, I try to, inspire people to go to this and do a little questionnaire. It's like 13 questions that can help you look at what your life is demonstrating important to you, not what you fantasize about. And then structuring your life around that gives you more courage. People know that when they have a full day that's filled with an agenda, it's easy to say no to people. But when they don't and they have idle time, they're vulnerable. So if you fill your day with high priority actions that inspire you, your day doesn't fill up with low priority distractions that don't. And you're less vulnerable and you're more able to be tactfully communicated to say, I really appreciate what you're saying, and I'll factor that into my decision. Thank you so much. But right now, I've got a really tight schedule that I'm trying to accomplish what's really meaningful to me at this moment. And there's many ways of saying thank you, but no thank you to people gracefully, where they back off. But everybody's going to want to try to get people to live in their values. And this is sort of a self-righteous projection that everybody has onto you. And you got to be willing to have the tough skin. And the best way to do it is to fill your day with extremely meaningful things that are truly valuable to you and tactfully learn how to communicate. Thank you, but no thank you.
You just mentioned a quiz that you have on your website that can help us to do this, but are there other ways that we can learn to determine what our values are?
Well, I've been studying values for 45 years, and there's many different methodologies or methods out there. But if you ask people what they value, I've done enough surveys of this to know that they're not honest with themselves. They're too influenced by social ideals to be able to look. It takes a drone view, an overview, to look at you and look at what your life is really demonstrating, not to fantasize about. And that's why I've created you might say a 13 questionnaire to help you navigate through that and to make sure that you're looking at what your life really demonstrates. And if the answers are pointing in the same direction, you have a very high probability you're honest. And so it's a simple exercise, not that hard. It takes about 30 minutes of the time, and they really just fill this exercise out, and it does help them. So I can encourage people to do it. I've got millions of people who have used it, companies, governments, all kind of people have used it. It's a simple tool to help an individual be more honest with what's really important to them. Because a lot of people are confused. It asks people how many want to be financially independent. Everybody puts their hand up, but only 1% are really doing it. So I'm not interested in what people say. I'm interested in what their life demonstrates. And there's a big difference for most people.
Right, because I could see where we would say that our values are what we think they should be as opposed to what they are.
Exactly. If you hear yourself inside your head saying, I got to do this, I have to do this, I must do this, I should do this, I ought to do this, I need to do this, I'm supposed to do this, those aren't you. Those are injected values of outer authorities that Freud called the superegos that we depend on for fear of rejection of their opinions, and we don't want to be upsetting them, so we inculcate those into our life and confuse ourselves and create a kind of an internal masochistic behavior to ourselves and beat ourselves up when we're not being the way we fantasize. I'm not interested in that. I am absolutely not interested in that and trying to help people navigate mastery in life. You need to find out what their life really demonstrates important. So I had a lady in London at my signature program, which I do called the Breakthrough Experience, where I help people break through these kind of limitations. And this lady stands up on a second day of the program and she says, I just don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what I really want to dedicate my life to and this and that. And I said, nonsense. Your life demonstrates it. Let's take a look at what your life is demonstrating. Let's imagine a drone hovering over your house and look at what you actually do in 24 hours, day after day after day. And I said, what do you do spontaneously that you love doing, that you're inspired to do, that nobody has to remind you to do, that you just keep doing? I don't know. I can't think. I don't know. I'm just not. I said, look carefully. Stop the ranting, not run the story. Just answer the question. And she says, I'm spending most of my day with my kids. I said, do you love being with your kids? She says, I do. And do you fill your space with your kids? Are they around you most of the time? Yes. And do you spend most of your time on that throughout the day? Yes. And does it energize you to help watch them grow? Yes, they're young children. I said, and when you have money, does most of it go to whatever it takes to help those beautiful children grow? She goes, yes. And is that what you have the most order and organization around? Yes, their agendas and what we do. And is that where you're most disciplined and reliable? Every day. And do you think about and visualize and affirm inside your head about how you want your life? Does it revolve around kids? She goes, you got me. And you talk to people about your kids most of the time? Is that what you mostly converse about? Yes. And what inspires you? She says, I get tears in my eyes thinking about how they grow and every time they make progress. I said, and your goals, are they mainly around your children? She goes, yes. I said, and when you read anything, is it mostly about children? She goes, you got me. I said, your highest value is your children. The only reason you're not honoring and being clear about what it is you're comparing yourself to somebody you think has a different set of values. She says, well, that's probable. I said, so who are you comparing yourself to? She says, well, I know this woman that's got this big business, and I think I should be doing it, but I just never get around to doing it, and I'm beating myself up. And why am I not doing it? I said, because your highest value is your children. And she said, but is that enough? And I said, well, look, Rose Kennedy from the Kennedy family, her mission statement, which I have a copy of, is I dedicate my life to raising a family of world leaders. Is it enough for her? They made a difference in the world. She started crying. And she said, that's all I've ever wanted to do is raise beautiful children. I said, well, then give yourself permission to be you. And she cried, and she came and gave me a hug. She said, that's all I've ever wanted to do. I said, okay. I said, it's more than enough. The most magnificent you'll ever be is the true, authentic you. Anything less than that is going to end up making you unfulfilled, and you're trying to fit in. And you can't be second at being somebody else. You want to be first at being you. And she cried, and she went down and wrote out a mission statement of what she wanted to do with her children, and it was clear, and it was inspiring. And there were women all over the room crying because they were caught in that same conflict. And men were looking at them and go, I think that's my wife. And it was really interesting to watch people finally give themselves permission to be themselves.
How much of a role do you think social media, and not just social media, but this 24-hour information jolt that we get, how much does that influence the way we see ourselves and our values? Because you're talking about comparing yourself to other people. And one of the things that I always think about when you look at Facebook, for example, everyone's showing their A roll there. It's the A game. And it's really easy to compare yourself to others and what you should be doing. Like this woman was saying, like, it's not enough that I'm a mother. I should have this business because Mary does, and so forth. So this information that we're constantly being bombarded with, how much does that harm us in what you're talking about?
Well, I don't want to give any external source of why we're not fulfilled in life, because I don't find that's a false attribution bias. The social media can easily be turned off. It's your decision. I don't pay attention to that most of the time. I go on it and share insights and information that I think will be helpful to people. But that doesn't mean it has to run your life. I would say prioritize what you fill your mind with. Prioritize what you listen to. Prioritize what you read. Prioritize who you hang out with. Prioritize how you spend your money. Take command of your life. You have control of your perception, decisions, and actions. And just gossip and information and what's going on in everybody's life and comparing yourself with that is the least effective way of mastering life. So I would say select who you're paying attention to on the media. Use the social media to share something that's meaningful, that's productive, that makes a difference in people's life, but not gossip and not comparisons. Because most people, when they put their information on there, like you said, it's not the whole individual, it's just the part they want you to see. And you're going to be misleading. And And anytime you compare yourself to others instead of compare your daily actions to what's really important and valuable to you, you're going to end up probably building yourself up with pride or beating yourself with shame and self-appreciate or depreciate and miss out on the magnificence of who you are. Because the pride and shame is not the authentic you. The authentic you is an open-hearted individual that cares and wants to contribute. And being true to that is where the power is. So just say no to the social media. Stop letting it run your life. I don't let it run my life. I remember what Gandhi said when I was 18, when I was reading his memoirs. He says, I don't read the newspaper and I don't watch TV. And he said, well, how do you keep up with what's going on? Oh, there's more than enough people that want to tell me that gossip. And most of that is social media and social extremists. And so that distracts. They activate the amygdala instead of actually using your executive center to contribute something meaningful. So I'd rather prioritize what I fill my mind with. I'd rather read a great textbook by a great mind and fill my mind with something that will stand the test of time if I want to stand the test of time.
I agree with everything you said, but how do we reach our children and our young adults who are so consumed with that type of life? And how do we teach them these important lessons that you're sharing?
Well, I think it was Albert Einstein said the greatest teacher is exemplification. So first, exemplify an inspired, prioritized, well-delegated life. Otherwise, you're going to be basically demonstrating and saying one thing and demonstrating another to the children, which they're not going to pay attention to. The second thing is find out what they spontaneously are loving and engaged by and not judge it and suppress it. Find out what it is and link what you feel will be valuable to them to that. They automatically are spontaneously inspired to do certain things. If you find out what it is and link what you know will help them to that by asking how specifically is doing these actions going to help you fulfill what's meaningful to them so they can see how doing the things you know will help them will do it. They'll do it spontaneously. I've trained thousands of mothers and fathers on how to do that, and it's amazing to watch. You know, almost everybody's had a dog probably in their life where they probably peed or pooed on the carpet. You spanked them and you didn't react and you didn't know what to do, and the dog kept doing it. And then you finally got a dog trainer and showed you how to deal with it, and all of a sudden the dog was miraculous. And the same thing with children, and I don't mean to put them on the same category as dogs, but there are certain skills that you can, as a parent, master and transform their lives, and they're waiting for it. They want to do something extraordinary with their life. They want to make a difference, and they all already have a set of values. Finding out what it is makes a difference. So I had a lady that was that attended a seminar in Brisbane, Australia that I was speaking at, and she said, you know, I would like to hire you as a consultant. And I said, okay. And what thing do you want me to consult? She says, my son. She was a single mom. She had a 16-year-old son, and he had his head in a computer all day long. And so she says, and all he does is watch that computer, and I want him to go get a job at McDonald's or do something and a paper route. And I said, well, that sounds kind of like 1960s there. She's living in kind of a dark ages a bit, and the world is on computers and cell phones at the time. So anyway, I went into, and I came and I met with his son in his room at the house. And I said, your mom's on your case, aren't she? He goes, yeah. She's always on my case. I said, what are you up to? So well, I'm working on designing some software for a video game that I'm designing. And he goes, I said, great, show me what you're up to. And I saw how genius this kid was. I mean, he was like amazing developing and codes. I said, where did you learn all the code? He says, well, I've been inspired by computers since I was young, and I learned it myself. I guess I would call him an autodidactic, a self-learned individual. He just learned how to do all the code. He started studying books on it, and else. His mom didn't pay attention to that. So he was designing software and designing games. So after I spent an hour with him and chatted with him, I asked him a bunch of questions, and I came out, and the lady said, well, did you talk to him since him? Is he going to go out and get a job? I said, no, I hired him. I hired him. She goes, you hired him? What do you mean you hired him? I said, he's a genius on software. I have a project that needs to be done. I'm going to pay him really good. I'd like him to do this project for me. He was inspired by it. She said, my son? I said, your son's a genius. And she came out, and he's like rolling his eyes. And I said, he is a genius in software, and he knows how to do things. And she was like off his case. She was an accountant, and she was making okay money, but she was not making super money, and she's single. And all of a sudden, he made $45,000 that year doing a project, and also picked up 2 other projects, and I don't know how much he made on those. At the end of it, she said, I had no idea my son was talented in this area. I'm illiterate with computers almost. I said, that's why you projected your values onto him and expected him to live in your world instead of honoring his. You got to find out what's inspiring to him, and you got to then add what you know will help him to that and link it. Well, 8 years later, I was speaking in Brisbane again, and right in the front row was this lady and her son. 8 years later, he's now 24, going on 25. Now, when I started to speak, pardon me for getting choked up, I saw them down there. I came down the steps in the front of the podium, walked down and gave them a hug right in the middle of my talk. And this little lovely, short little lady, this Italian lady, said, my son, the genius, he's ahead of IBM today. He's running the software development with IBM. Can you believe it? I said, because you honored his values and you communicated and understood and respected it, you awakened his genius instead of suppressing it. Now, that's the kind of thing that can happen if you find out what's really, truly engaging.
And Dr. Demartini, where can our listeners go to take this test on your website?
Just go to drdemartini.com and go to Determine Your Values. You should find it on there. And you'll have to just do a little sign-in, but whatever. But it'll take you 30 minutes. It'll ask you 13 questions. You need to fill it out, and then it'll do it electronically for you. And then do a printout, a beautiful printout, and look at what your life is demonstrating important to you and be honest.
And once again, that website is drdemartini.com. Dr. Demartini, thank you so much for joining us. This has really been a fascinating and, I believe a really important conversation that can change so many lives. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity because, you have a platform that makes a difference, and I've got the opportunity to be with you today. So thank you for that. You helped me fulfill my dream.
Thank you for joining us. I hope you found the show informative. At Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life, we believe that knowledge is power. Take what you've learned, apply it, and live your best life now. Remember that the information provided is the opinion of our guest and should never replace the advice of a professional who knows your personal situation. If you'd like more information, visit our website, cyacyl.com. That stands for Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. While on our site, listen to past shows on demand, read the digital magazine, sign up for our mailing list, and be sure to follow the show on social media. Until next time, this is Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in.